Hello everyone, this is Christian Imazo from Nizona Corporation, and today I want to speak to you about documentation. These are real examples of documents we utilize throughout the process of regulatory assessment and export from Japan. Before that, one small disclaimer. We are based in Japan and we only warrant and represent regulations of our country. Any regulation that applies to countries outside of Japan is responsibility of yours. You are responsible for checking your own regulations and make sure that the product we supply to you and that we introduce to you meet your local regulations in terms of composition and labeling. Therefore, please consult with us regarding your own regulations so that we can develop and adjust the product accordingly so that we can meet all the laws applicable to the product. Having said that, we have two categories of documentation, one that applies to the product and the other that applies to the manufacturer and the exporter. Regarding the product, I listed here seven categories, but the list is more extensive than this. However, this covers pretty much the whole spectrum of what could be required. Number one is the specification and ingredients, meaning a document that explains what is the product and what is in it. Number two is the certificate of analysis. This one is a set of tests executed on a sample of the product to secure the quality and the safety of the product. This document is usually issued after manufacturing of a particular production batch. Number three, the nutritional analysis. This document is, again, issued upon the examination of a product sample where we examine what is the nutritional composition of the product, in particular the amount of calories, proteins, carbohydrates, etc. Number four, certificate of origin. This document explains or certifies the origin of the product, in this case the country of Japan. Number five, the free sale certificate, sometimes called health certificate. The free sale certificate is a document or a declaration whereby we certify that the product is freely sold or available for sale in our country, in this case Japan, and it is available without a particular restriction. Number six is a phytosanitary certificate, which can apply to plant or animal derived ingredients contained in your product. This document will apply depending on the particular country of destination and will be explained throughout this presentation. On the right side, we have manufacturer and exporter related documents. I divide them in two parts, manufacturing standards, in this case GMP. Most of our products are manufactured under good manufacturing practices standards, uh, pretty much regulated by the Ministry of Health of Japan. There are other manufacturing standards such as FSSC 2000 or ISO or HACCP or others. However, in our case, most of the manufacturing standards of our subcontractors is good manufacturing practices, which is the highest quality standard. Number two, manufacturing principles. This applies to halal, kosher, or organic manufacturing plants. These type of manufacturing principles apply for products that are destined to countries that follow Islamic laws or kosher, and they may be available depending on the product category. In terms of organic certification, that also applies to some specific ingredients that are contained in our finished products. However, there are limitations regarding these manufacturing principles because not all the ingredients are available as organic. And the same applies with halal and kosher. There's limitations on that because the halal and kosher market in Japan is certainly limited, but it is slowly gaining popularity. So please consult us about this. Okay, the first document that I want to show you guys is the product specification. This one is an example product specification for a drink. As mentioned before, a product specification is basically a document that explains what the product is and what is the composition of the product. So the format doesn't follow one specific strict order, but in this case, for example, we mention the per code, if any, or the lot number, and here the country of origin, the classification. When it comes to classification, all of our products are food products and of soft drinks or dietary supplements. They are never classified as medicines, so please be mindful about that. Sometimes the product specification, we mention the shelf life and other physical properties and packaging explanation of the product. The main aspect here is to explain what the product contains, what is the composition of the product. And this is the ingredient list. The ingredients are listed up and including the amount, let's say the blended amount of each ingredient in the same document. In addition to the main active ingredients, we also mention sometimes the excipients. Now, what is the difference between active ingredients and excipients? The active ingredients are the ingredients that give the product its functionality, and the excipients or the inactive ingredients are the ingredients that give the product its texture or flavor or stability, etc. In the inactive ingredients section or the excipient section, drinks usually will list sweeteners, acidulants, flavor, preservative if applicable, and of course, water. So these ingredients are the ones that give the product its deliciousness, or let's say the flavor identity. And the preservative, it allows the product to have a longer shelf life. And the water, of course, is the base solution that mix all of it. On the other hand, we also add allergen section when applicable. However, the allergen section is according to what the Japanese Ministry of Health uh, classifies as allergen ingredients. So please check the ingredients that we give you to make sure that your country doesn't require a specific allergen mentioning on the label. Additionally, if required, sometimes you can also includes whether the product is vegetarian or some other classification. And that is basically the outline of the specification in this case. Now, there are other examples. For example, this one is a specification for a tablet product. In this case, we of course we mention the product name, where was it made, by whom, etc. The ingredient list, same as in drink case, will list up all the ingredients of the product and the amount per ingredient based on per serving basis. It can be one tablet, it can be five tablets, etc. It depends on the serving of the particular product. The inactive ingredients in the case of tablets will be different than drinks. In the case of tablets, you will find blenders, stabilizers, lubricants, and coloring, etc. Things that are required so that the tablet acquires its shape and so that the ingredients are blended in a uniform manner. So this is an example of the specification documents. Next on is the certificate of analysis. Sometimes it's called test analysis certificate. It may have different names depending on where you're from, but basically this document is certification of tests being done over a particular product sample. As you can see, the certificate of analysis also doesn't have a particular fixed format, but usually it will explain what the product is, the name of the product, and the lot number or an identification of the sample that we use to make the tests. This is a date when a test was executed, and sometimes it will include the shelf life of the sample and who issued or who executed the test and where. All right. So the test items will be different depending on the product category. In this case, I am showing you the certificate of analysis of a drink, of a dietary supplement drink. Because it's a drink, you will find pH as one of the test items. The pH is a measure of the acidity level in the product, which is important for food safety. Usually, products with low pH have lesser chance of developing bacteria, and therefore it's important that the pH is below a certain level. The brix is the level of sweetness of the product, and the other items of test analysis during quality assurance in a production batch is usually microbacterial analysis, where we check, where we make sure that there's no harmful bacteria below a particular threshold in a particular product sample batch. Next example is a certificate of analysis this time executed on a dry product, in this case on a tablet product, right? So the analysis executed on a wet product such as a drink and the analysis done on a dry product as a tablet will be different. So dry products are like tablets or capsules or powders. And in this case, the format is similar, but the analysis is slightly different. Sometimes you will find that the certificate of analysis will include like physical tests in terms of the size of the capsules or the the particular weight of in an individual unit to make sure that there's uniformity in the production batch. Additionally, the dry products usually will contain test analysis on loss on drying and general bacteria count and coliform bacteria. These items, again, similar as in the case of the drinks, are strictly referring to food safety. It is very important that every batch of a product being manufactured does not contain any kind of harmful bacteria to human health. And these are the basic test analysis as required by the Japanese Food Safety Act. Now, if in your country there's an additional requirement of additional tests executed on a sample, you have to let us know in advance, because otherwise we will issue the COA based on the standard uh, test analysis as required by Japanese law. But if your country has a different regulation, please let us know so that we can add the different tests to the certificate of analysis. Another kind of analysis is the nutritional analysis. These ones that I show you here are quality analysis, and these are nutritional analysis. The nutritional analysis are utilized to measure the amount of nutrition in a product sample so that you can add that information to the product label. In this case, we have two kinds of analysis. The basic analysis, which is the analysis of the main facts of the product, such as energy, protein, lipids, carbohydrates, and sodium. So these are the basic items. According to the law of Japan, food products are only required to have this analysis on the product label. However, there are other countries where local labeling laws require a more detailed nutritional examination. So please let us know what kind of a nutritional examination will be required by your country, because if you don't, we will by default follow the Japanese nutritional analysis requirements. In the case of a complete analysis requirement, some countries, such as the United States, for example, will require not only the basic five or seven nutritional items such as energy, protein, lipids, carbohydrates, and salt. But additionally, it will require a breakdown of the carbohydrates, including the sugars and other all types of sugar in the product, and other kinds of components such as cholesterol and other components that may be included in a product sample. So you have to let us know what particular nutritional analysis is required by your country so that we can do the required tests. So please let us know, and so that we can follow all the requirements accordingly. All right, in continuation with the documents examples, this is the certificate of origin. The certificate of origin certifies the origin of the product. In this case, all our certificate of origin will contain the word Japan on it. And in this case, the one aspect that I will explain is that the certificate of origin will be different depending on who issues the certificate of origin. We have the generic version of the certificate of origin that is usually issued by our local chamber of commerce, in this case, the Kobe Chamber of Commerce and Industry in our local city. The certificate of origin applies on a shipping basis. It will apply to the particular shipment. And that is why the certificate of origin has to be issued with the information of who is the exporter, who is the consignee, meaning your name, who is going to be the importer of the product. And it will contain the invoice information and also the shipping information, meaning where is the shipment going and what is the particular invoice of that shipment, and sometimes what is a airway bill or the bill of lading that certifies the shipment of a particular batch. So this is the format of the generic certificate of origin. Now, there are cases where Japan has signed a economic partnership agreement with a particular country. Please check if Japan has a economic partnership agreement with your country, because in that case you can get some beneficial treatment in terms of tariffs at the time of importing our product. In this case, I'm going to show you example of the certificate of origin between a particular format of the certificate of origin between Japan and ASEAN. So this document applies for all the member countries of the ASEAN economic partnership, and it will contain the information of the particular shipment as explained before, including the name of the actual shipment that contains your product. So therefore, if you want to apply a preferential treatment to your product during importation, it's very important that you ask us for this document before the product has been shipped to you. There's another example over here between Japan and India, which also have an economic partnership agreement, and this one will contain similar information, including the invoice number, including the quantity, quality, and packing detail of the product. Again, I repeat, certificate of origin contains information on a shipment basis. This is the example of the economic partnership between Japan and the Philippines. And this is the example of the economic partnership between Japan and Australia. Now, when it comes to the European Union and Japan have also an economic partnership agreement, but these countries have agreed that instead of a certificate of origin, it will be enough to submit a statement of origin issued by the exporter, in this case, Nizona Corporation. The statement of origin for the European Union looks like this, and explains on a particular date that the products covered by this document, in this case, is a commercial invoice. The statement of origin, usually it will be applicable to a particular invoice of the products sold in that particular commercial transaction. So it will contain the date, it will contain the products covered by this document, in the case the invoice, and the exporter reference number, meaning our company, Nizona Corporation, reference number. And here we declare that the products are from Japan preferential origin, and we state the origin criteria utilized as per the Economic Partnership Agreement regulations. So this is how it looks, the statement of origin for products bound to the European Union. Next on is the free sale certificate, sometimes called health certificate. This document is a declaration whereby we declare that a product is freely sold in the Japan market as a food supplement, and the product is sold without any particular restriction in the country of origin and was manufactured in full compliance with local food sanitation laws. So this document usually will include the invoice number and where it was shipped and to where it was shipped. So document is issued by the exporter, in this case Nizona Corporation, with a certification of our local Chamber of Commerce here in Kobe. This is a generic document and usually is the one that we utilize. But there is another document, it's a free sale certificate issued by the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries of Japan. This document is also a certificate of free sale. However, this document may not be available for products that have been manufactured, order made exclusively for the export market. Meaning, this document certifies that a product has been manufactured according to the Food Sanitation Act and they are readily available for sale in Japan without restriction, as you can see here, readily available for sale in Japan. And because this document is issued by the Japanese government agency, they need to know that the product is actually available for sale in Japan. And if the product has been manufactured under your private label exclusively for the export market, this document may not be available for you because the product is actually for the export market. So in those kind of situations, usually you will find that this document, a generic free sale certificate issued by the Chamber of Commerce, will fulfill the same purpose. Finally, the last category of documents regarding the product is the phytosanitary certificate. This kind of document applies when our product contains ingredients that are derived from plants or animals. These documents are issued by some Japanese government agency, in this case, the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries. And in the case of an animal quarantine certificate, issued by the Ministry of Agriculture also from the Animal Quarantine Service uh, that depends uh, on this ministry agency. One point that is important to mention about these kind of documents is that these documents are only available if the government of Japan has an agreement with the government of your country that requires this document for certain category of products. If you require these kind of documents on a generic basis and your country doesn't have an agreement with Japan, these kind of documents may not be issued. So please be aware of that. Regarding the export currency certificate, here I'm showing you an example of the United States, and I have made a detailed video about this document in a separate installment of the United States FDA. So I invite you to watch that video if you are an American importer. In short, the export quarantine certificate for for products that contain animal derived ingredients is issued only if you as an American importer are issued an import certificate like this, issued by the US Department of Agriculture, and they require you to obtain a export quarantine certificate from Japan, and the product contains animal derived ingredients, in this case fish origin. Like you can see here, some of products contain animal derived ingredients from fish, or from some species of birds. So that one, those are animals, and therefore the United States requires sometimes the issuance of an animal quarantine certificate. Finally, there are other certificates, for example, a certificate of signature that is issued by our local Chamber of Commerce here in Kobe, and that is to certify the signature of one of the directors of our company, and that signature can be attached to a contract or to some other commercial documents. Other than that, your country may require other kinds of documentation, so we invite you to find out with your regulatory agency what documents are needed and submit it to us, and we will surely utilize our expertise to help you come up with the documentation required. Okay, this is the second part of the explanations regarding documents. And in the second part, I discuss about documents that apply to the manufacturer and exporter. One very important document is a document that explains the manufacturing standards that apply to our products. And this is the GMP certificate. As you can see in this screen, the Japanese government issues a GMP certificate in this form, which contains the information of the manufacturing plant that is blurred out over here, contains the product, the factory name, and it explicitly mentions that such factory is a pharmaceutical manufacturer licensed in accordance with the paragraph 1, article 13 of the Pharmaceuticals, Medical Devices, and Other Therapeutic Products Acts of Japan. And it explains the manufacturing site name, address, and license number. One important question that we get frequently from our customers is why this GMP certificate doesn't have the word GMP itself in it. Basically, the reason is because the GMP guidelines are regulated by the Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare and administered by the Pharmaceutical and Medical Devices Agency. It's called PMDA. The main law regarding the GMP for food and pharmaceuticals is the Act on Securing Quality, Efficacy, and Safety of Products, including pharmaceuticals and medical devices. This law is explicitly written in the certificate that you can see here under the shorter name of Pharmaceuticals, Medical Devices, and Other Therapeutical Products Act. That is the reason why this document itself doesn't have the word GMP. Now, there's other kind of GMP certificate as well that is not directly issued by the Ministry of Health, but is issued by the Japan Health and Nutrition Food Association. This organization is not directly a government agency, but is a semi-government agency authorized by the government to issue and administer these food grade GMP certifications. This kind of certification explicitly says the word GMP and explains in this example over here that a particular factory has complied with the requirements of the Japan Health Nutrition Food Association GMP program. That means that in this case, as opposed to this kind of certificate, the program applies to dietary supplements as opposed to this one that applies for pharmaceutical products. Now, what is the difference? Pharmaceutical products have a more strict set of standards to fulfill as opposed to food and dietary supplements. Our products at Nizona Corporation belong to the food and dietary supplement category. However, they are manufactured in plants that follow standards as if these products were pharmaceutical products. That is why we can assure an excellent quality and safety in our products. Now, this kind of document over here that you can see is called GMP, Certificate of Compliance for Dietary Supplements. And this document has a slightly different format and explains the particular dietary supplement category that has been allowed under the certification. This other example is another certification of food grade good manufacturing practices that applies to a different category of products. In this case, granules, powders, tablets, soft capsules, etc. That means that the GMP manufacturing certification has to cover the particular dietary supplement category of your product in order to be valid. Therefore, let's take into account the difference between these two forms of certifications. Finally, one important aspect that I have to highlight regarding GMP in Japan is that essentially uh, all food operators, according to the current legal requirements of Japan, are required to conduct hygiene management based on HACCP, or Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Points principles, regardless of their status. These principles are regulated in Article 51 of the Food Sanitation Act of Japan, and this requirement was introduced to enhance food safety and align with international standards since June 2020. That means that by default, food operators in Japan that have good manufacturing practice certificates like this are also required to fulfill the HACCP requirements by default. The next category of documents that apply to manufacturing production lines is halal. This one is one type of manufacturing principle not directly related with quality but related with the following or certain manufacturing rules, in this case, Islamic rules. In Japan, halal certifications issued to factories are given and administered by the Japan Halal Foundation, and this kind of certification applies to a particular production line regarding a particular set of products. There is no such a thing as a blanket halal uh, certification that applies to all products, but is limited to a certain set of products that have been approved by the uh, agency that administer the halal rules in Japan. In general, halal products as complex products that contain many ingredients inside is not available, because when you make a halal product, it means that every single product needs to be halal certified in addition to the production line that mixes all the ingredients into a final product. Therefore, I have to say that halal uh, products applicable to complex products, such as the ones that we develop and manufacture, is not usually available. However, please consult with us if this need uh, arises in your case. Another manufacturing principle is organic, and we sometimes receive this kind of inquiry from customers that want to utilize or want to certify the product as organic. One important thing that we need to clarify here is that organic production applies to products that are very, very close to nature. For example, tea in this case, or certain kinds of wines, or certain kinds of products that are very, very unprocessed. But when it comes to products like dietary supplements that are made out of a blend of multiple ingredients that have to have a shelf life of 2 years or 3 years or even more, it is very challenging and impractical to classify those products as organic. Having said that, some of the ingredients that we utilize in our products may have organic certification, but the majority of them do not. So, therefore, organic certification is usually out of the scope of what we call dietary supplements and more closer to natural foods, like tea, for example, or certain grains or certain fruits, and not as dietary supplements. Okay, guys, so I think I covered these two main categories about documentations for product and documentation about manufacturing. Based on this presentation, I can say with confidence that we at Nizona Corporation are able to meet most of the documentary requirements of food and agencies out there. However, please let us know in advance what kind of documents are required for your particular case, for your particular country. Like we always say, making a product is not enough. The product has to reach you and has to reach you on time, safely, and meeting the regulations of your country. That is a way that will bring your product to reality from factory to shelf. Thank you very much. And this was Christian Imazu, Representative Director of Nizona Corporation in Japan.